Cricket presents The Campfire, and today we are taking a deep dive into District 4-6A. The schools in this district include Haltom, Keller, Keller Central, Fossil Ridge, Timber Creek, Eaton, Byron Nelson, and South Lake Carroll. Let's analyze these teams in our film session. South Lake Carroll is always a favorite to win the district title as they have the history and the athletes. In 2022, they went 7-0 in district and bring back strong-arm quarterback Graham Knowles. They also welcome in Colleyville Heritage transfer Riley Wormley to their backfield to help replace all-time leading rusher Owen Allen. Defensive Player of the Year Dustin Mark is back, along with some other key pieces to their defense. The team that gave the Dragons their fiercest competition in district play was Keller. Though they finished third in 4-6A, they only lost to Southlake by 3 points and will have receiver Trey Griffiths and running back Cameron Rayford back in the fold. Byron Nelson loses some of their high-powered offense that led them to an 11-2 record in 2022, but their defense may step up behind linebacker Ashton Williams and safety David Kabongo. Eaton was the fourth playoff team out of the district, and they have experience behind center with Noah Lugo to go along with receiver Mason Stubby. Timber Creek will bring back Devin Green at linebacker, but the transfer of wide receiver Dozie Ezukanma to All Saints will be a huge blow to the Falcons' offense. Fossil Ridge will miss the play of running back Landon Chambers, who graduated, but receiver Cooper Leonard should turn heads at receiver. Haltom and Keller Central will look to some unknown stars to help push for wins in a tough 4-6A. Switch to Cricket and get a free Moto G 5G with your new plan. Smile, you're on Cricket. Players on the Rise is brought to you by Parker University. Do you or your student want a career training the world's best athletes? Check out our bachelor's degree in strength and human performance today. For an even deeper look at 4-6A, here's producer Ward the Soul and insider Matt Diggs with the district breakdown.
It's district breakdown time. I got my guy, Professor Diggs. We are talking 4-6A, and we are talking the South Lake, Byron Nelson, and Keller schools, plus Haltom and Eaton. Why did I even bother starting doing that? I might as well name every single team if I'm going to do it like that. But anyway, last year was South Lake Carroll, but the team of that district was Byron Nelson. Everybody was talking about because of their offensive numbers they put up there. But man, I think a lot of that team has gone on to college and graduated and done other things. So tell me who we need to look out for in 4-6A, Diggsy.
Well, I mean, we talk about Ric Flair theory, and we talked about it significantly on the podcast, last year when we were talking about the Byron Nelson and South Lake Carroll. Is it going to be Carroll? And when Carroll played Byron Nelson, they certainly took him out to the woodshed and took him to task. I think this district absolutely still goes through South Lake Carroll. When you really dig into South Lake Carroll's roster and what they've got coming back, it could be a very special team. They don't have that one player, that you look at, the Owen Allen, who's going to be setting records this year, but almost everybody on this team is, potentially looking at a D1, D2, D3 kind of a scholarship.
So throw me a top 1 through 8.
Got South Lake Carroll number 1, Byron Nelson number 2, Northwest Eaton number 3. Sorry, Keller, bumped you to 4 because of Northwest Eaton's performances in 7-on-7 this year. Fossil Ridge 5, Timber Creek 6, Keller Central 7, and Haltom rounding it out at number 8. Well,
should be a deep playoff run for some of these teams, and I'm looking forward to it. And we will talk 5-6A when we come back next week.
I know everything you talked about last week, you made me cut up the script and throw it away, and we'll talk more about that next week.
Start from scratch. We'll see you.
We'll post the entire breakdown segment this Wednesday on our social media pages. Now let's take a look at some game changers and our Players on the Rise presented by Parker University. At Keller, Trey Griffiths has been playing second fiddle to Amarian Henry at receiver, but he'll step up as the Indians' primary target in 2023. Griffiths caught 32 passes for 865 yards and 7 scores and averaged 27 yards per catch as a junior. Trey is a high-end track star as well and uses his speed and jumping ability to stand out on the gridiron. Griffiths has verbally committed to Oklahoma State. Noah Lugo stepped in quite nicely as Eaton's starting quarterback in 2022. As a junior, Noah passed for 1,612 yards and 16 touchdowns. He also ran for 962 yards and 14 more scores, as Lugo has proven to be a dangerous dual threat. He will hope to cut down on his touchdown to interception ratio as a senior, but should lead the Eagles to quite a few victories. Lugo has verbally committed to the University of Texas San Antonio. Graham Knowles was thrust into the starting quarterback job late in the season for Southlake Carroll and performed superbly for the Dragons. In 13 games, 5 as a starter, Knowles threw for 1,864 yards and 18 touchdowns with just 3 picks. Knowles is 6'7", so he can easily see over defenses for the open man. Expect even bigger numbers for Graham as the Dragons' full-time starter this year. Knowles verbally committed to Georgia Tech. One of the best returning defensive players in the district is Ezi Osandu of Byron Nelson. The linebacker finished with 39 tackles and 8 tackles for loss while also forcing a fumble. Most impressively, however, was Osandu's pursuit of the quarterback as he ended up with 7 sacks. Ezi will lead an experienced Bobcat defense in 2023, and he verbally committed to Cal earlier this month. Players on the Rise is brought to you by Parker University. Check out our bachelor's degree in strength and human performance today. Switch to Cricket and get 4 lines for $25 each per month, plus unlimited nationwide 5G. Smile, you're on Cricket. Our Wolf Sold sat down with the head coach in this district to talk about their team and the rest of 4-6A in our Media Day segment.
All right, it is Media Day, and we are talking 4-6A, joined by Keller's head coach, Carl Strelo. Coach, every year there is a team in the DFW area that I feel had an underrated great season. Last year, I want to say that was Keller, because that whole district, everybody wanted to talk about, oh, Byron Nelson is throwing up all these numbers, offensive numbers, and yes, they did get the better end of you in that game, and Southlake Carroll went a little bit further, but you gave Carroll their closest game. I was actually at that game, and, man, I had to leave at halftime to get to another, and I was like, man, I got to find a way back to this game because this is going to be one heck of a finish. Granted, you didn't probably have your best game against Nelson, but you pulled off 2 tremendous playoff games, which were gritty wins there before falling to Louisville. I feel like your team did have a solid year that not really many people were talking about. Is that something you can build off of for your 2023 season?
Oh, absolutely. And proud of how our kids competed. And I told them, if you play like that, like you did tonight, you can play as long as you want to. And Byron Nelson the next week, we kind of let that you try and fight hangover or on that. But I don't know if we'd have won that game or would have changed things, because Byron Nelson had a really good team and it was a bad matchup for us. So moving forward, I told our kids, if you play like you've played all year, you can play as long as you want to, but you're going to need to play well the next 3 weeks, and you get to host a playoff game. And our kids perked up like, we could still host a playoff game, and yes, you could. And they did exactly that. They played their hearts out. And then the night we played Trinity here at Keller ISD Stadium, cold playoff night. The electricity got cut off because our indoor facility that's being built, they hit the mains, so we didn't have electricity until about 4:30, and they brought in a generator, and big enough for a hospital, and so there was a nice hint of diesel. But I told her, one of our coaches said something about it. I said, our kids haven't complained yet, so don't tell them a thing. Let's just go play. And we're real fortunate, and then go out and beat Midland Legacy. It's got a really good program and a really good team. And the clock hit midnight about noon that next week against a really good Louisville team. But it's the farthest our team's gone since 1966, this program, when Keller was a Class B school. So looking back, there's a lot to be proud of and a whole lot to build off of.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing plays out, and we only have a couple months to wait. So I appreciate you joining us, Coach.
Absolutely, and thanks for highlighting our program and our kids. And thank you for doing what you do for high school athletics.
No problem.
You can catch the entire interview Friday on our social media channels. That's going to do it for this week's Campfire. Next week, we discuss District 5-6A. Until then, have a great week, everybody.